Hello, everyone, and welcome to Teach Them Ministries. This is Greg Asia. Thank you for watching on our video. Today, I'm going to be speaking, as the title indicates, from the topic, No Creator God. Really? Question mark. No Creator God. This topic is, to me, important because we can't even begin to have a conversation about the Bible if we don't believe the Bible is true and it's the Word of God. And if we don't believe that there is a creator God, then obviously, then he couldn't have given us his Bible. So it's sort of a circular discussion in a sense. So I want to approach it from this perspective about the creator God. Is there a creator God? And really, if we disbelieve that, then there's no point in even having a conversation about the Bible because everything comes down to that. So what I want to do is just cover an area in this particular video that I hadn't thought about before, and I haven't heard much talk about this area in terms of trying to come to the conclusion or determination about whether God exists, the creator God. Now, I make the point of saying creator God because I realize that God to different people means different things. And one person's idea of God or is different could be different from another person's idea about God. So I'm using the word creative because I believe that we can, but I mean, it'd be ludicrous to deny the existence of the life that we see around us, the sun, the moon, the stars, ourselves, people, life, plants, animals, the physical earth that we live in, the world itself. Obviously, it's here. I'm not going to get off into this. There's a lot of different teachings out there. I know ideas that people have floating around out there. We live in an information age. There's a bunch of ideas and thoughts and theories that people have about life, different alternate universes. I'm not even going to go there because, I mean, I'm trying to keep, to me, that's all speculative. There is no proof whatsoever about that. It's all in imagination, and that's fine. People, that's why we have a brain and then we have a mind. And actually, that's really the point I'm trying to make in this video, and using this as, I believe, rational, conclusive proof that God, the creator God, exists. Now, normally I was going to start this off on the scientific evidence and facts that are undisputed, and there are a lot of undisputed scientific facts that scientists in their respective fields believe, whether they're believers in the Bible, the creator God of the Bible, or not. Some are believers and some are not believers, but there's a lot of facts that they believe as a whole, the credentialed, well-respected scientists in their given field, that there aren't disputes about some of those facts. I'm going to get into that in my next video. This one, I'm going to be approaching from a different perspective. I think you'll find it interesting. I found it interesting when I started reading up on this and thinking about this particular topic and this subject in terms of how that correlates, to God and the proof of him. So it all comes down to your most basic beliefs about the reality of the world. And that really basically how we view the world is what this all comes down to in terms of our perspective on whether or not there is a God, whether God exists. And that in a nutshell is called a worldview. Everyone has a worldview, everybody. They may not think of it as a worldview, but that's what it is. We all have a worldview. If you really want to jazz it up intellectually, you could say, our philosophy of life, philosophically, how do we view life? But it's a worldview. What we believe about life. How do we get here? Where are we going? Where is all this leading to, if anywhere? That's our worldview. How we view things. So everything comes down to that. Now, in a worldview, basically the foundation of a worldview, a person's worldview, is based on how they see the origin of life. Okay, now I'm not going to get too deep into that right now because that's going to be on my next video dealing with the scientific aspect of life. And I think that is actually very compelling. And until I started reading up and studying or giving some thought to this particular subject, which I'm going to tell you here in a second, I thought the scientific evidence, I still think the scientific evidence is strong. I think it's clear. I think it's no sound, rational argument. I don't think can stand up against it. But again, I realize we live in a world where people believe what they want to believe, no matter how much evidence a person has or how cogent, rational, or sound an argument or position is. Some people just refuse to believe no matter what. And that's fine. That's their free will that we have been given. But I'm going to appeal to your rational, logical mind with regard to everything that I bring to you. This is going to be a 3-part series. This part's going to be dealing with the subject matter here. I'm going to tell you in a second. The next one will be dealing with this from a scientific aspect, which is really powerful. My favorite, actually. And then and coupled with that, it's going to be the human aspect, our bodies. The creation of our bodies is just amazing. It's phenomenal. And if you look at the scientific piece of this, the universe, the earth, particularly the universe, the scientific facts that we have, and these are things that are beyond doubt, especially with the technology that we have today. You know, Darwin floated the theory of evolution back in 1852, somewhere right around there, 59, it might have been 59. But he didn't have nearly the technology that we have today with the electron microscope, because back then they considered the cell in our body the simple cell. I don't want to get too much into that, but it's not simple at all. It's very complex. So in this particular presentation, I'm going to talk about something that I hadn't thought about it, that I think most of us don't think about. Is real. I haven't really heard it mentioned until I was doing some reading recently, and that is the area of morality. But let me just jump back to the origin for a moment. The foundation of everybody's worldview is based on their origin of life, how they perceive life got here, how we got here. Now, again, I'm going to be talking about or contrasting the difference between the atheistic / evolutionist worldview and the creationist worldview. People who believe in creation as taught in the Bible. Two different worldviews. Now, the atheistic, in a nutshell, the atheistic and evolutionary worldview is essentially a worldview of a chance universe. Big Bang theory. The Big Bang is a theory, and there's no scientific basis for the Big Bang at all, whatsoever. Science, the word science means knowledge, and the science is the study of knowledge. And you can't just throw out an assertion out there without anything to back it up. And that's what a lot of this is with regard to the evolution and the atheistic position. It's a belief system, really. Actually, atheism and the evolutionists, everything is a belief system, because you either have to believe that matter and energy has been here eternally, or there's an eternal God, one of the two. And I'll get into that in my scientific presentation. But the evolutionist theory and the atheists who don't believe there's a creator God, they essentially believe the same thing, and that is that we are just a bunch of chemical processes, molecules in motion, so to speak, that we just got here by chance. It was a random chance. They believe that the creation, everything that we see around us sprung from a real dense piece of matter. In fact, they believe it was so dense you couldn't even really see it. And then boom, there was an explosion. And we got all this complex order in life. That's essentially what they believe. And that's fine, that's what they believe. There's no proof of that at all, none, zero. So it depends on what lenses you look through in terms of how you view the world, and that's your worldview. For instance, if you have a person that puts on a pair of blue lenses in their glasses, and they see through these blue lenses, well, everything obviously they're going to see the world through that perspective. It's going to be blue. Person with red lenses are going to see it through red lenses. They can look at the same facts, the same information, and look at the same world, so to speak, but they'll have a different perspective based on the lenses that they're looking through. Now, that's probably an oversimplification, but that's essentially what it comes down to when you have people with difference of opinion about how they view the world. It's based on how they're looking at the world, through what lenses are they looking at it through. So the area that I want to really touch on, that I think is really compelling with regard to God and whether he exists or not, is the area of morality. Now you see, morality, what does that have to do with whether or not there's a God? Well, I think it has a lot to do with it, and here's why. We talk about morality. First, we need to define what morality is. Morality springs from the word moral. And the word moral basically is talking about the principles of right and wrong behavior. The principles of right and wrong behavior. We call that morals. Okay? Now, we know, for instance, in history, we can think of some really horrible, evil people. Hitler gets a really bad rap, and rightfully so. What he did was horrible. Stalin killed more people than Hitler, actually, and they had did a lot of damage in World War II in the 40s there. But very few people, I think, or it's unlikely that probably most of you ever heard of a person by the name of King Leopold II of Belgium. This guy, he made what Hitler and Stalin do look like a nursery school recess. They were like Boy Scouts compared to this guy. He was horrible. He reigned in Belgium from around 1865, I believe it was, to like 1908. And he actually is estimated to have been responsible for the murder of between 10 and 15 million Congolese people in the Congo. I mean, it was brutal. It was ugly. And that's twice as many, probably at least twice as many, roughly twice as many that were killed in the Holocaust. And the Holocaust was horrible because Hitler was responsible for the slaughter. And we know most people that if you have any semblance of history, we've heard about the Holocaust, the way that men, women, and Jewish children were killed in the gas chambers and otherwise. But Leopold II, this guy, to call him a moral monster would be an understatement, a gross understatement. And he didn't even set foot in the Congo. He had his minions do it. And, they slaughtered these people. And the thing that made it even worse was he had the audacity to use the ruse of Christianity that he was taking into the natives down there as his mechanism for doing a lot of things that he did down there. And really, essentially, what he did was he was just there to take all the natural resources. The Congo was very rich in ivory and other natural resources, gold and so forth. The reason why I bring that up is in a evolutionary atheistic worldview, if we're just molecules in motion and we got here just by chance and we're just chemical processes without any ability to think or reason, then who's to say what those evil people did, or any single murder of anyone, who's to say that's wrong? That they did what they thought was right, but any rational, reasonable thinking person would clearly say that was clearly wrong. That was clearly immoral. So on what basis is anything objectively wrong if we have a world that we live in where there is no absolutes? There's no absolute right or wrong. I mean, you could have a neighbor that might think one thing is okay, and you might think another thing's okay from a moral perspective. Who's to say who's right or wrong? What basis do we use? And so here's the point. The point is, in an atheistic and evolutionary world view, they have no way to determine what is the right standard. What is an objective standard unless they borrow from the creationist biblical worldview. Why do I say that? Because it's all subjective and not objective. Because again, we're left to the fact that we are just molecules in motion. We're just chemical processes. We got here by chance. So there's no sound reasoning, no basis for that at all. Now, I'm not saying that people who are atheists or evolutionary people don't have a moral standard. I'm sure most of them probably do have some type of moral code that they follow where there's a line drawn and they know that certain behavior is unacceptable. But the point I'm making is that there's no foundation for that they can lean on. Based on their worldview, they have no basis to support that, because in their worldview, we are just molecules in motion. We're just a bunch of chemicals that just came here by chance. Voila, we're here. So there is no foundation for any objectivity. It's all subjective. It's all left up to the person. Let me give you an example that I read in this book that I thought was very interesting, and that is some people believe that some people are what they call moral relativists, that everything is relative. Morals are relative. It might be wrong for you, but it's not wrong for me. It's just all relative. It's just very subjective, not objective. If a person put a gun to a moral relativist head, this person's a moral relativist. They believe that morals are just relative. And that person said to that person that was a moral relativist, can you give me any reason why I should not pull this trigger and blow your head off if I can get away with it? Now that person who's a moral relativist, who thinks morals are relative, will quickly become an objective person, objective relativist, and would know for sure that morals are not subjective, but they're objective. That would be objectively wrong for that person to shoot that person in the head just because they want to do it. And so the point is, when I've seen interviews with people who have a hard time trying to even admit that a person who is guilty or of a real egregious crime, such as murder, that they have a hard time trying to admit that so-and-so, that was wrong. And we see that happening in our world today. There are certain behaviors and there are certain lines that people cross, and some people think it's okay because, well, that's that person's free will. That's their, to them, it's fine. That's their subjective opinion. And there are no moral absolutes. And you can't get there in a biblical creation worldview. You can get there in an atheistic evolutionary worldview, because again, we're not reasoning in that worldview. The point is this, that the Bible, talks about a creator God that created everything we see around us. But if a person doesn't believe the Bible, if they don't believe that there's a God, a creator God, then obviously the Bible, they're just going to chuck it. There's no a reason why a person would believe the Bible if they don't believe that there's a creator God. And again, I think this moral issue, this morality issue that we have in the world, even if you go to a country where there's no law against stealing, murder, whatever crime you want to think of, there may not be a law in the books, but if I was in a country where there was no law against stealing, and I'm living on a farm and I have a neighbor that's, we're in a rural area, and I go over and steal my neighbor's chickens, and bring them back home, unbeknownst to him, even though it's not against the law per se, I know in my conscience that that's wrong. So how do we get that conscience? How do we get that? And we got there because God gave it to us. So in Romans 1:18 to 20, it says this: for the wrath of God is given out to men on the world. It's displayed to the world. Matter of fact, I don't want to just quote that. I'm going to read it because it's really important. It says, the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of people who suppress the truth. They hold down the truth in unrighteousness. Why? Because that which is known about God is evident within them, for God has made it evident to them or revealed it to them. For how has God revealed that to us? This consciousness that we have of right and wrong. For since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes, even his eternal power and divine nature, has been clearly perceived, being understood by what has been made. Everything we see around us. If I said to you that car that you're driving just happened to be, that nobody made it, I mean, that's ridiculous. Everything we see around us was obviously made by somebody. The clothes we have on, somebody designed them. To think that we see were just came out of nowhere, that's ridiculous. It's ludicrous. But yet to think that this life that we have just popped into existence with all this sophistication and complexity is just got here, that's ridiculous. So it says that they are without excuse. People are without excuse because God put his creation here for us to know that he exists. So thank you for watching and for tuning in, and catch us next time on Teach Them Ministries. The next episode, the next video I'm going to do is about the scientific evidence for the Creator God. Have a good day.